My grandpa and grandma Kerr care very much for family. They had 12 kids who had kids who had kids, so now the family is very large. Our family is now almost large enough to make a baseball tournament instead of just a baseball team. What I find interesting is how many sports interests of my grandparents and some of my aunts and uncles' sports interests have become mine as well. Growing up, I already knew that my grandpa loved to golf. He golfed all the way up until the day he passed away. The local newspaper wrote an article about how he would be missed. The golf gene in our family runs all the way down the line. My dad and Uncle Dave, Jim, Ken, and Sam learned how to golf when they were just kids. My grandparents' house was in the woods with a nice big open clearing off to the side, so they used to practice chipping with their golf clubs and the apples that fell on the ground. They would dig holes in the yard larger than those on the regulation golf course and practice chipping into the holes. My dad and his brothers became bogey golfers by the time they were 13 or 14. They would play a few holes of golf with Grandpa after he'd get home from work. I had the chance to play golf with Grandpa Kerr as a teenager at Sylvan Heights. I remember being told, "Keep your head down when hitting the ball because I'd miss if I looked up." He also called anyone that barely tapped the ball when putting a sissy if the ball didn't make it to the hole. I don't hesitate in putting anymore because of that. Several of my cousins and second cousins golf now as well. Another sport that seemed to pass on to me from my grandparents was figure skating. I didn't realize my grandparents were pair skaters until I started taking figure skating lessons in 2006. I already loved ice skating as a kid. Both my grandma and grandpa were members of a skating club that skated at Swan Lake just down the road from my great-grandpa Kerr's house. They became pair skaters. During World War II, they were members of an amateur skating club called Rusty Skates or Rusty Skaters. I'm not sure which. They were invited to skate in Pittsburgh, but they were unable to do so due to the times. Grandpa continued skating up into his 70s. Most of my aunts and uncles tried skating at some point as well. Golf and figure skating weren't the only sports that passed on to me. Grandpa played baseball, he was a fast runner, and he did the high jump. Grandpa was given the nickname Flicker Flash, which was later shortened to Flick because he was a fast runner. This gene passed on to a lot of my aunts and uncles. Grandpa was an outfielder for baseball. I played softball from the time I was 9 years old and softball using a tennis ball before that. I was best either pitching or in the outfield. My grandpa and several uncles were also really good jumpers. I was also pretty good at high jump during high school, although I can definitely say I wasn't as good at it as my uncles. They could jump their own height using the Western roll over a bar that was only backed by a sawdust pit. I'm thankful we had thick mats to land on when I learned. It makes me happy to know that my grandparents' love for family and love for sports is continuing to be passed down generation to generation. They would love to witness their extended family's successes and would take joy in seeing the fun we are having in the process.